back to Hope at Dawn, right here at Hope TV. This is where you look and live. My name is George Gishuru.
Yes, and my name is Beatrice Watare.
Umelala kidogo.
No, I was just being caught aback by an amazing story here.
Yeah.
But I will get to it.
All right.
Tuambie, what's happening on
Let's
the Standard?
start with the Standard.
Yeah.
They are reporting Ruto's big silence as healthcare system collapses. President Ruto has not spoken about the ongoing crisis after dispatching his chief of staff to help end the doctors' strike. 2 weeks later, even lab technicians are about to follow clinicians and doctors in downing tools. When will the government and the unions find a common ground to save Kenyans from suffering? And that is the question they are asking. You can read that on pages 2 and 3. And yes, a very, very sad situation because Wananchi, amidst the standoff between the government and the union, it is Wananchi who continue to suffer, lives being lost because, of course, it's all about sicknesses and hospitals and healthcare and so much pain in our health system. And we hope and we continue to pray for an amicable solution so that the medics can go back to work. I also see a very interesting story here.
Yes.
If you are a parent and you are happy that children are closing school so they will be doing those house chores, be warned. Because holidays, beware if you ask your child to work. Now, a lawyer has moved to court seeking orders to compel parents and guardians to only give adult jobs to those above 18 years. He wants minors allowed to learn and play. So it's a story you can read on page 4. So this lawyer has cited ambiguity in law which paves the way for exploitation of minors by parents and employers. Onyango now wants 11 sections of Employment Act declared unconstitutional, even as he faults Section 18 of the Children Act. Right.
Wow.
So allow the children to play and to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't give them jobs.
Or you can as well hide this newspaper.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, because if they get a hold of this newspaper,
It's over.
It's over.
Kwanza magen Z unawaambia nini?
na wanakuambia, I know my rights.
I know my rights.
And with this paper, of course, they now start citing sections of the paper. Where utasite hizo sections, pia na uta contribute to the kitty ya familia. Yeah, so long as unakula kwangu. Ai. Your rights.
You also pay rent for this house.
Yeah, of course.
That you want to have rights over.
If you invoke rights,
Yeah.
let it be a crossboard.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
Don't be so selective. Don't be so selective. Anyway, heading over to page 7, and they are saying succession fight could kill ODM. Raila is warning, and actually he was saying those who are seeking to succeed him, they should go slow because he's still within. He hasn't moved anywhere, and so he's saying this could actually kill ODM. That is the warning he gave. MPs reproach government on school funds. It's a story on page 5, and they're saying schools close as MPs dig in on fund delays. Several secondary schools opted for early closure last week due to financial crunch. MPs say 2 tranches of funds received by schools this year cannot sustain their operations, and we can read that on page 5. I hope they will be able to sort out these dispatching of funds by the time the schools are reopening by the end of this month for the second term. All set for Japan used car auction. That is on the business section. That is page 27. And then I see a special report inside the Standard. Orphanages, the children no one wants. It's a special report on pages 10 and 11. Children no one wants as clock ticks to phase out orphanages. A national care reform strategy proposes placing children in alternative family care. Donors are being encouraged to support children from within their families and communities. So the big burden, 8 months duration it has taken.
Yes.
And since the authorities embarked on a mission to find relatives to take in an 80-year-old girl, Zane, who once lived with her biological mother in the streets. And I see foster families will be given priority in Inua Jamii. That's according to PS. Families who are seeking to be enrolled in the cash transfer program and have children in charitable children institutions will be given first priority. You can read that. I see care reform a must. Joseph Motari, the social protection PA, saying that the amount of money spent on a child in a CCI per month is sufficient to meet the monthly needs of a family of 4. All right. I see Abdinur Mohammed, NCCS Chief Executive, saying CCIs currently registered with NCCs are also accommodating children, but with a view of reuniting them with their families. But we hope that this will be carefully done so that we again do not harm these children who already are suffering. Right, so it's a special report on pages 10 and 11. The back page of the Standard, the sports page for Arsenal. Victory grows through harmony. Man City and Arsenal draw to hand Liverpool advantage. Gunners not going away in Premier League title race. That you can read back page. Bayern in unrest ahead of Arsenal date. Thomas Muller seemed lost in a wave of unpleasant emotions. They were beaten 2-1 by arch rivals Borussia Dortmund. And so as they prepare for their battle with Arsenal, it is unrest for the Bavarians. And then page 38-39, WRC Safari Rally Kenya, which closed on Sunday. Why WRC Safari Rally Kenya is a championship like no other. Safari is a rally that's full of unpredictable weather conditions. The rally is famed for its rough and rocky terrains. You can read that on pages 38 and 39. And then finally, why it won't be a tough hike for Hospital Hill. Coach Wabule believes they can retain their title, especially after an easy Group A. It's all about the National Term 1 school games. You can read that on page 37 inside the Standard.
All right, quite interesting.
Yep.
This Tuesday has begun with quite a lot. But I see here the very first big story on the Daily Nation is big divide over NADCO report. Now, this is set to assess the 2022 election. And I see here war of words, even as President William Ruto and his Kenya Kwanza Alliance named their team of 3 to the bipartisan panel that will evaluate the 2022 electoral process. Some in the Azimio camp are accusing the government side of a plot to sabotage the full implementation of the Bomas report through a court process. But is this really the case? Quite an interesting story. Once again, we are coming back to the wrangles. And of course, Raila anasema hapa naona hii kitu anasema court process. This may just be a scheme to again alter once again the results. But I see here the stories on page 4 and 5, so you can get there. And the Kenya Kwanza team includes of Cecilia Ngetich. We have Dr. Linda Musumba. We also have Ndegwa Wahome. And on the other side of the Azimio coalition team, we have Amos Wako, we have Judith Pareno, and we have Julius Injiraine. Quite interesting. You can have a look at that story on page 4 and 5. And another beautiful story that I see here is I'll visit Joey in prison and forgive him. Monica Kimani's father now says. And I was just looking into the story earlier on, and I see here the father, who is actually a bishop, which explains why even he went through this route. And it says that after going through the pain of losing a child, I asked God many questions. God told me to forgive the killers. And I even wrote a book about forgiveness titled Endurance in Grief. So in this season, the father has actually written a book called Endurance in Grief. And he says that for him, forgiveness was the hardest decision to make, but it is necessary for the closure, said Mr. Ngarama, which I feel this is the best step to take, because again, when we harbor that bitterness, it damages us. Not forgiving is like taking rat poison, expecting the other person to die. So, this step is very, very huge. And by the way, he's actually abroad, currently pursuing a PhD in counseling psychology at the Fulbright Theological Seminary in the United States of America. So he has plans to graduate next year, and he will be coming back to make sure that they have those talks and leading these conversations of forgiveness so that the family can heal and also move on from the trauma, because it can be a lot when we hold the bitterness within. So that's a story you can find on page 3. I felt it's a beautiful, beautiful step. And I see here page 2, how I survived a Shabab attack at Somalia premises. Another one, families in Tigania West mourn their loved ones whose bodies were flown back by the government on Sunday. And I see here Lewis Murigi saying we opened for business at 6:45 a.m. as usual and expected to make good money because during the holy month of Ramadan we record good sales. That is a story on page 2. You can have a look at it. And I see here, of course, page 4 and 5, it's all about the Ruto names Paul's audit team amid a war of words over NADCO report. Look at it on page 4 and 5. And I see here, page 6, Raila Nasma, tread carefully. Raila wants ahead of crucial ODM top organ meeting. Two camps emerge in ODM when former Prime Minister declared interest in the chairmanship of AUC. Party elections and successions are expected to dominate the high-profile meeting scheduled for tomorrow. And I also see on this other side, Mwangaza on the cross in vicious fight for soul of Meru. The battle for Meru is not one for the ethos of democracy and governance, but that of the elites and commoners rising up against each other for the control of the county's wealth. And the electorate, like deer caught in the headlights of a truck, are the vulnerable, defenseless victims of the vicious battle. Interesting article there. Heavyweights Kiraitu Munya, Linturi, and the governor have shaped Meru's political dynamics for years. Look at that story on page 7. That is on Supremacy Wars. And when I look at the back page here, we see TTCs spring to life after change of entry grades. Many of the teacher training colleges were on the verge of collapse due to extremely low enrollment numbers. But what we see here is them springing back to life. Look at that story on page, that's the last page, the back page of the Daily Nation. And I also see here Varsity Science MOU that will see students get training and jobs in Germany. And on the sports pages, I see here crews take stock of performance as the dust settles on Safari Valley. And I see Toyota, which took the first 2 positions in Naivasha, led Hyundai by 4 points in the Manufacturers' Championships. And the next round is in Croatia on asphalt from April 18th all the way to 21st. I see here Klopp, Reds must remain positive in nerve-wracking title race. Interesting. Look at that on the English Premier League. That is on page 39 of the sports page. And lastly, Omanyala's camp calm ahead of Tebogo clash in Kipkeino Classic. World 100-meter silver medalist from Botswana returns to Nairobi, where his stellar career took off 3 years ago to take on the reigning Commonwealth Games champion in a potentially explosive matchup. That is on page 37, and that is it for the Daily Nation.
All right, quickly, the Business Daily. Why Kenya is shifting to Japanese-Chinese bonds. Now, Kenya is planning to raise an undisclosed amount of money through new bond sales in China, Japan, and the Middle East. This as it moves to diversify its external sources of debt and fund a 326 billion shillings budget deficit in the new financial year starting in July. I also see 7 insurers in trouble over garage compensation delays. Feuds over delayed payments by insurance firms for car repairs have escalated to the competition watchdog, with garage owners latching onto a new legislation to push for settlement. Foreigners sell 2.3 billion shillings NSC stocks in 3 months. I read that on page 14. And I also see private farms to import electricity for resale locally. So Kenya will allow private farms that enter the electricity distribution market to import power from neighboring countries, putting pressure on power producers to cut wholesale tariffs. You can read that interesting story, front page and also page 2 inside the Business Daily.
All right, beautiful. So that's it for the newspaper review segment. Amazing, amazing. You can grab a copy of your favorite. But remember, Pale Hope FM at the top of every hour, we have news. And also right here on Hope TV at 7 p.m., we have Dira. And of course, News Watch at 9 p.m. Be part of the conversations that we will be holding even during these times when we bring you news. So this has been good. Now, we are going to take a short break as we look at the video of the day. We come back, talk about it kidogo, even as we usher in today's conversation on One Day at a Time. So please, just stay with us.